6 years since I cut ties with my parents. The door to my house was knocked on by a name I thought I had buried in the past. Natalie Harper, my adoptive sister. She stood on the porch holding a box of homemade cookies, the faint scent of butter and vanilla slipping into the house. Her eyes lowered, lips pressed tight, like if I said one harsh word, she might break right there in front of me. "Mom and Dad miss you," she murmured. "The whole family. Hopes we can reunite." I froze. My hand instinctively went to the thin but deep scar running along my left wrist, a mark from when I was 8, when she pushed me down the stairs. I had screamed in pain while she sobbed into our parents' arms, claiming I had fallen on my own and tried to blame her. And when I raised my hand to defend myself, my father gripped my arm tight, as if I were the violent one in the house. Those memories rose again today, like bitter foam stuck in my throat. Benjamin, my husband, stood beside me, looking at that pitiful face with sympathy. He placed a hand on my shoulder, speaking softly. "It's all in the past. Don't hold on to it. Just let it go." Lucas, my 5-year-old son, burst out from the playroom, clutching a bright red Hot Wheels car and 2 Knicks tickets. "Mom, I want to go to Disney with Grandma. If you don't make up with them, I'll live with them," he shouted, eyes fierce like a little wolf. "I don't need you anymore." I suddenly felt exhausted. I simply nodded. "Fine." The moment I handed him the divorce papers, Benjamin was stunned. "Just because I wanted you to make up with your in-laws?" "Yes, just because of that," I answered. "What about our son?" "He's only 5. What are you going to do?" As soon as the words left his mouth, Lucas ran into me, hitting my lower stomach so hard it sent a sharp pain through me. "Mom, you're so cruel!" he screamed, tears and snot all over his face. "Grandma said you're being selfish, not a real mom." I tried to swallow the pain, staring at him coldly. "Who taught you to talk like that?" Lucas flinched slightly, glancing toward the figure hiding behind the door. Natalie Harper. She was the daughter of my dad's best friend from college, lost her mom young. She'd grown up with me. "I'm sorry, it's my fault." I told Lucas the story of Disney's Cinderella and the evil stepmother. He accidentally remembered some bad lines. Natalie, as always, putting on that innocent, pitiful act. That fake sweetness was what I hated most. And it was also the reason I'd suffered so many times in silence. Yet both Benjamin and Lucas defended her. "Grace, you've been too busy to spend time with your son. You can't blame Aunt Nat for helping out." "Mom, I love Aunt Nat the most." "If you scold her, I won't need you anymore." The room suddenly felt cold, suffocating. Both of them, my husband and my child, stood by the very person who once ruined my childhood. And in that moment, the corner of Natalie's mouth lifted ever so slightly in a smug little smirk. So fast anyone else might have thought they imagined it. I said nothing, because sometimes words aren't enough to save anything. Deep in my chest, disgust and fury rose like a violent tide. I didn't want to say anything more. I just pushed the pen toward Benjamin, its tip circling lightly over the paper, like it was drawing the final boundary between me and them. "Sign it. From now on, you can please whoever you want." Benjamin's eyes turned sharp, disappointment etched across that familiar, high-bridged nose. "Grace, can you stop making a scene?" "I just want our son to have more family." "They're your family too," I laughed, a short, sharp laugh that cut right through the air like a blade. Family. I remember very clearly the day Natalie Harper showed up at our door for the first time. My parents stood in the middle of the living room, holding her hand, their voices full of hope. "You're older than Natalie. From now on, you have a little sister. You must take care of her. Yes, I was older than her. I was born 3 months before she was, but I was the one expected to act like the big sister, to give in, to sacrifice. Back then, she didn't have the last name Harper. Dad said her father was gone, and from now on, she would carry his last name. A small, fragile girl, her eyes always shimmering like rain on a windowpane. I used to feel sorry for her. I gave her my comic books, the ones I cherished so much I didn't even dog-ear the pages. The chocolate bars Dad bought, I hid them to savor slowly. The dresses Mom brought home, I gave them all to her, just because she asked, "Can I call this place home one day?" And I nodded, foolishly believing that my parents would see me as the good, kind daughter. But ever since that day, every time our parents left the room, Natalie would have red-rimmed eyes, a trembling voice like she was about to cry, hands clutching her shirt. And just as expected, our parents would rush back in, glaring at me like I was the cruel one. "Are you bullying your sister again?" The scolding always came down hard. I tried to explain, but all she had to do was shed one more tear. And suddenly, everything was my fault. 6.5 years old, I gave up my room for Natalie. My closet became hers. The things I loved disappeared, little by little, as if I was disappearing too. 8 years old, the violin class I'd been in for 4 years was suddenly canceled because Natalie didn't like sad music. Just like that, my very first dream was crushed by one sentence. 12 years old, my birthday party turned into a celebration for Natalie making the cheer team. The cake was red velvet, her favorite. No one remembered I was allergic to almonds. My lips swelled, throat burned, eyes blurred under the blaring music. My parents held Natalie and told me to stop being dramatic. 18. My graduation photo was replaced by one of Natalie getting nominated for some award. Every little thing I was proud of was pushed aside. 22. I was severely malnourished. The doctor said I needed urgent gallbladder surgery, but my parents coldly refused to cover the hospital bills because they were busy escorting Natalie to VIP Coachella. I nearly died on the way to the hospital. He swore he'd protect me forever. "From now on, I'll protect you." "No one will hurt you again," I believed him. Believed so deeply, I entrusted the rest of my life to that promise. Yet 6 years later, he's the one asking me to open the door wide, so the same people who once pushed me into the abyss can come shove me down again. I looked at Benjamin, his eyes full of helplessness, but behind it, I saw the same foolish softness for Natalie's fake, pitiful face. He had no idea, or maybe refused to understand, that every time he defended her, he was driving another knife into my old wounds. I sighed, my voice so calm even I was surprised by the coldness in it. "Grace, I'm not signing." Benjamin was determined, his hand gripping the crumpled divorce papers as if holding on a bit tighter could somehow make me forget every pain that had ever torn me apart. But I no longer had the strength to argue. I turned around and walked to the bedroom, packing my things, one item at a time. In the corner of the closet, I found several receipts shoved deep inside. A Keurig coffee maker, Broadway tickets, AirPods Pro. All expensive things I had never received. Benjamin suddenly looked like he remembered something, rushing over, face turning pale. Don't misunderstand, these are..." Lucas came running out of nowhere. "Those are gifts Dad bought for Grandma Sue, Grandpa Rich, and Aunt Nat." Then he pouted, eyebrows raised in provocation. "Mom, Dad bought lots of other stuff too. It's your fault for not listening. That's why you don't get anything." Every word was like a needle piercing straight into my heart. He shook the toy car in front of me, trying to provoke me, his tiny eyes filled with arrogant pride, as if I were an outsider in my own family. I stepped closer to Lucas, only wanting to talk. But like a feral cat, Natalie Harper leapt out from behind the door, shoving my shoulder hard. "Don't hit Lucas! He's the only grandson of your parents. Even if you're his mother, you can't hit him." Her trembling voice was perfectly performed, and I finally couldn't endure it anymore. I grabbed her wrist, the same wrist that once clung to my dress, pretending to be scared, and I slapped her clean and hard. The sound cracked through the air, sharp and startling even to me. Natalie collapsed slightly, letting out a soft whimper. Lucas instantly raised his smartwatch, shouting into it, "Mom hit Aunt Nat! Grandma Sue come teach Mom a lesson! She's violent! I don't need her anymore!" I snatched the watch from him. I looked at the screen, a group chat, named Carter Family Love. And inside, my parents, Benjamin, my son, and Natalie. I was the only one left out. I scrolled. Every message sliced into me like salt rubbed into an open wound. My son shared everything about school with them, things he'd never told me. Benjamin sent photos of dinners, without me, just him, Lucas, and that family. My mom praised Benjamin. So handsome and responsible. My dad gushed that Lucas looked just like him. And then one line hit me with brutal clarity. "It's a pity Ben didn't marry Natalie from the start. She's so much better than Grace heart emojis," and laughs decorated the message like applause in a tragic theater. And of course, there was Natalie, every day calling him Ben, in a sweet, shy way filled with hidden meaning, heart emojis flying across the screen. Benjamin began softening. The man who hadn't bought me a single gift in so long now constantly bought things for them. A coffee maker, Broadway tickets, AirPods. "Honey, listen to me," he stammered, reaching out to hold me. "The gifts were just to fix your relationship with your parents. Aunt Nat isn't bad like you think. Why can't you just live peacefully with them?" I turned around, staring straight into his eyes. In his gaze, who did he really love anymore? Peacefully? That's what he called it? I couldn't hold back. My hand moved. A second slap echoed against Benjamin's right cheek. He froze, eyes wide, the red imprint of my hand shining on his tan skin. Lucas saw me hit his dad and the aunt he loved the most. He went wild. He threw himself at me like a rubber ball, arms and legs striking wildly. "Grandpa Rich was right. Mom is a devil. She fell down the stairs herself and blamed Aunt Nat. You deserve being hated by everyone." His shrill voice cracked with tears. "Get out. Go away. I don't want you to be my mom anymore. I want Aunt Nat. Grandpa, Grandma, and Dad all want her instead of you." I stood still. This was the child I endured agony to bring into the world. 18 hours of contractions, blood soaking the operating table. Every meal lovingly made by me. When Benjamin was busy at work, it was always me, picking him up, putting him to sleep every night. 5 years with him, and in return, betrayal. It would be a lie to say it didn't hurt. I swallowed the salty sting rising behind my eyes, staring directly at Lucas. "Lucas, I'll give you one last chance. Say that again. I hate you. I don't want you to be my mom," he screamed, eyes blazing. "I want Aunt Nat to be my mom." A dead silence. Seeing my face turn cold, Benjamin rushed to calm things down, pulling Lucas back. "Kids talk nonsense, don't take it to heart." "Yeah." In his eyes, a child can be wrong but must be spoiled. Parents can be cruel but must be obeyed. And me? I must always endure. A little more, then more. Until when? I looked at the three people before me, a husband who betrayed me, a son who had been brainwashed, a snake wearing an angel's disguise, and I knew, if I didn't save myself right now, I would die. Literally. Not because someone strangled me, but because of my own silence. "Grace, why can't you fix that damn attitude of yours?" That voice. I spent 6 years trying to erase it, yet it echoed again inside the very home I was living in. I thought I misheard. Until the door swung open. My parents walked in like they owned the place, not bothering to ring. That was when I realized they had fingerprints saved on my door lock. Benjamin had let them into my life. Without asking me, Lucas rushed over, his face lighting up in a way I had never seen directed at me. "Grandma Sue! Grandpa Rich! You finally came to teach my mom a lesson." Their family, standing together, and me. Just a problem in their eyes. Mom stepped forward, her voice so soft it was terrifying. "Grace, 6 years ago, I didn't know you were that sick." The apology had barely touched my ears before it was shredded. Natalie clutching her slightly swollen cheek from the slap earlier. teary-eyed, walking slowly toward them. She only needed to breathe a little harder. My mother instantly transformed into a raging lioness defending her cub. "Sweetheart, who hit you like this?" My father roared, eyes bloodshot. "Who else but this crazy girl?" "Grace, you're absolutely disgraceful." He turned to Benjamin, barking orders. "Kick her out of here. This is not her home anymore." Benjamin didn't disagree. He just held my arm, speaking softly like he pitied me. "Honey, hitting someone is wrong. Why don't you apologize first?" He knew I was about to leave, knew the suitcase was already packed, but he still stood there, advising me, waiting for me to kneel and beg for forgiveness. I locked eyes with Natalie's triumphant stare. She stood in the embrace of my family, like some precious gem being worshipped, the corner of her eyes lifting, lips pressed together, trying not to smirk. I let out a faint laugh. "Is it true that anything I have, you must take for yourself?" Natalie immediately switched to innocent sweetheart mode. "Sister, what are you talking about? I don't understand." A harsh yank dragged my hair backward. Pain shot across my scalp. My father's thunderous voice roared above me. "Grace! I order you to apologize right now." I heard every single word he spat out. "Don't use divorce to threaten Benjamin. He's the one making the money to support this entire house. If you're so good, get out." Benjamin panicked, grabbing my father's arm. "Dad!" "This is between me and Grace." My father shoved him away like he was dust. "If she hadn't faked being sick back then, you wouldn't have missed Natalie's performance." Then, the next thing he said, shattered the last piece of glass in my heart. "Who knows? Maybe by now you and Natalie would be a couple." I turned to look at Benjamin. He lowered his head. He didn't deny it. "Ah, so that's how it was." I suddenly remembered the photo of a girl's back hidden in the bookshelf. Benjamin told me not to be jealous, said she didn't even know who he was. In this moment, even the last bit of affection left in me dissolved. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. Not a single word to justify myself. I signed the divorce papers right in front of all of them. Benjamin suddenly panicked, reaching to grab my hand. But my parents pulled him aside, like snatching away property they refused to lose. Lucas clung tightly to Benjamin's leg, screaming, "Dad! Don't care about her. She's just a useless housewife. Without you, she has nowhere to go. Grandma Sue said if we let her starve for a few days, she'll come crawling back." Benjamin stood still. He didn't defend me, didn't deny my son's insults. He just silently watched me get torn apart by the people who once called me family. That was enough. I pulled my suitcase. The wheels rolled across the floor, the sound echoing like a declaration. I am freeing myself. I didn't look back. I didn't want to capture any more memories of them in a mind already full of scars and bruises. I took a cab to Brooklyn. A tiny studio, but it was mine. No one else had a key. No one had the right to open that door without my consent. It was bought with the returns from financial investments I had saved up over time. Even Benjamin had no idea. I studied finance. They said I reeked of money. My job wasn't as noble as Natalie's. The girl who studied art, danced, took moody photographs. When Lucas was born, he had severe ADHD and asthma, prone to intense attacks, needing meticulous care. Benjamin was climbing the corporate ladder back then. Ruthless competition, endless meetings, constant business trips. "Honey, can you quit your job to stay home with the baby?" "I promise I'll earn enough to take care of you both." Benjamin once swore that, his eyes glassy, gripping my hand tightly beside the hospital bed after my C-section. Family, to me, meant everything. I hadn't received much love from my own blood relatives, so I wanted to pour all of mine into this child. I said yes. At first, Benjamin gave me full access to his salary cards, told me to spend freely and not worry. But I'd never felt safe, not even as a child. So I quietly took a small portion and started investing. Maybe it was skill, maybe it was luck. One stock soared 50 times over in the past few years. I made a lot of money. I never dared tell Benjamin. He hated that I got involved in what he called gambling, said it was reckless. He suggested I should get a teaching license so I could tutor our son later on. I asked, "But I majored in finance. Isn't it a waste to switch to teaching?" He grew stern. "Grace, finance is too complex. I need a wife who supports me from behind." I wanted to argue, but at that time, Benjamin painted such a beautiful picture for me. A warm home, children's laughter, family dinners. He once pulled me out of a dark place when I was close to giving up on life, promised me happiness, a cozy little home for the three of us. Back then, my longing for love outweighed my ambition. I gave it all up, just to be a wife, a mother. I once believed that love, if strong enough, could make up for all the childhood wounds. In the end, the only thing I truly lost was myself. I spent the whole day cleaning that tiny studio condo. I was exhausted to the bone. I lay down on the bed. Dreams came one after another. I saw myself back in my parents' house, saw the rough wooden dining table, saw a pizza box left open on the living room table. I was just about to grab a slice when my dad slapped the back of my hand hard. "Grace, I've never met anyone as greedy as you. Can't you let your sister have one piece?" His voice thundered. The hit hurt so much tears spilled before I could stop them. He didn't even look at me as he put the last two slices on Natalie's plate. "Nat has suffered enough. She will be the little princess of the Donovan family," he said, as if announcing a destiny that had already been stamped. There was a time Natalie stood in the corner watching me practice violin, her face full of resentment mixed with longing, and my dad happily said, "Nat, today I'll take you to find the best coach." Art classes, dance lessons, nothing cheap. Our parents didn't earn much, but they saved everything for her, while I had to endure. My violin teacher once called me a little prodigy, and then she pushed me down the stairs. I wanted to slap her back out of rage, but my mom stopped me. My dad slapped me straight across the face. They sold my violin and used the money to buy Natalie a sparkly cheerleader uniform. She jumped up, tiptoed to kiss him. "Daddy, you're the best." Their laughter sliced through the blood vessel of hope inside me. They refused to pay for my college, but set aside everything to send Natalie to USC. That pain turned me into a little mouse storing food for winter, hiding small amounts, bit by bit, keeping an escape route because without it, I would probably be sleeping on the streets by now. A familiar ringtone jolted me awake. Benjamin's voice rang out. "Honey, where did you go last night?" "I was so worried about you." "Don't make a fuss anymore." "Our son wants to eat your cooking." My voice was cold as ice. "Your son got tired of my cooking 3 months ago." I thought he was just being picky. Only later did I find out Natalie secretly took him out to eat, and Lucas, with his weak body and severe asthma, needed careful diets because of mild lactose intolerance, but he hated hearing me nag about the menu. He secretly threw away the beef stew I spent hours cooking into the trash. The milk I prepared for his night routine was poured down the toilet. When I tried to scold him properly, Benjamin rushed to cover it up, comforting him. "It's just asthma. I've already found the best doctor. Nothing will happen." And then the phone was on speaker. Lucas joyfully calling his dad. "Dad, why are you looking for Mom?" "She talks too much. It's so annoying." His little voice drilling deep into my heart like a steel bit. The doorbell rang again. I heard footsteps in the hallway, and my hand trembled slightly, so I hung up the phone immediately. I made plans to meet up with a friend from college. Halfway there, my phone rang. It was Lucas's kindergarten teacher, her voice tired but polite. "Lucas's mother, could you come to the school?" He pushed a classmate down and used inappropriate language. I asked if she'd called Benjamin yet, and she sighed. His father said he's in an important meeting and that it was just kids messing around. Nothing to fuss about. I turned the car around and drove straight to school. I saw the little girl who'd been pushed, sitting on a bench, a small scrape on her knee, eyes glistening with tears. Her parents hadn't arrived yet. I pulled Lucas aside. He was wearing a Hot Wheels hoodie, chin lifted in defiance. I forced him to bow and apologize, then took a colorful rainbow hair clip from my bag and handed it to the little girl. Lucas looked completely unimpressed, his lips pouting. You and Dad are divorced. What right do you have to tell me what to do? I'm not saying sorry, suddenly. His eyes lit up like he'd just seen his saviors, and he ran to the door. Grandma Sue, Grandpa Rich, Aunt Nat, you're here to help me deal with Mom, right? He and Natalie exchanged a quick glance, her mouth curved slightly upward. In that moment, I knew exactly who had planted that twisted idea in my son's head. Despair washed over me. It takes years to teach something good, but just 3 months to teach something wrong. I stepped forward, my voice low but clear. Don't teach my son the wrong things. My father grabbed my wrist. His strength wasn't what it used to be, but still rough, his breath hot on my face. I've never seen a worse mother than you. Even your own kid can't stand you. I yanked my arm free and shoved him back a step. He staggered, had to grab the wall for balance. The father who once felt like a mountain crushing me now looked old and frail, his hair thin and graying. The rage I'd buried for years erupted like a dormant volcano. He hadn't expected that the daughter who used to be so obedient would ever fight back. You've got guts. I'm your father. I looked straight into the eyes that never believed me when I fell down the stairs at 8 years old. Parents who value their foster child more than the life of their own daughter. In my heart, you died a long time ago. My mother couldn't hold back her sobs, tears rolling down her wrinkled cheeks. Grace, why do you hate us so much? Natalie pouted in fake disapproval, deliberately linking arms with my mom like they were stitched together. Her head tilted, eyes glinting with smug satisfaction. My mom gave an awkward smile, but didn't push her away. I changed my tone, cold as metal. Let me remind you, go get a paternity test. Natalie's looking more and more like him, especially the nose and eyes. Looks more like his daughter than I do, and I'm the real one. My father froze for a second, his eyes blinking rapidly, his throat swallowing dry. My mom pulled Natalie closer, trying to get a better look, but she had already slipped behind him, her blonde hair covering half her face. I didn't want to see that fake little 3-person family play out their affectionate drama anymore. I crouched down to the little girl who'd been pushed, clipped the rainbow hairpin gently into her wispy hair, and handed her my number. If Lucas bullies you again, call me. The girl blinked her clear eyes and nodded sweetly. I rushed to the cafe, where Olivia sat stirring her cappuccino, lips curled in playful sarcasm. Looking for a job, huh? Finally got smart, did you? Her tone was light, but every word turned an old key, unlocking the part of me I had locked away in the kitchen for years. I once had a stable job at a major financial firm, graduated with honors, trusted by my boss. But then I listened to Benjamin. I gave it all up to become the wife behind the scenes, the mother who monitored every one of her child's naps. Back then, Olivia was the only one who objected. A woman can live without a man, but never without her own career. I didn't listen. She was so mad she cut off contact. Yet every year, she still sent me stacks of industry newsletters, like an invisible hand tugging me back from being left behind. Today, seeing me in a wrinkled t-shirt and worn-out canvas shoes, Olivia leaned her chin on her hand and stared. The same girl who once studied until dawn just to beat me for first place. Grace? And now, you're not even as qualified as the interns. Do you regret it? I took a sip of coffee, the bitterness sliding down my throat and burning its way into my chest. But life has no rewind button. You can only move forward. Olivia gave me a probationary opportunity. I'd have to compete with a group of bright young interns. I was grateful, but when I looked at the task, a senior-level investment report, I couldn't help feeling overwhelmed. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Thinking of backing out? I shook my head furiously. Olivia dragged me straight to a department store and picked out a few expensive suits. When I saw the two of us in the mirror, one fierce Olivia, one Grace standing tall in a new blazer, she spoke slowly. Grace, never abandon yourself again. That night, I sat at my vanity. A thin red lipstick, sharp eyeliner, neatly tied hair. I was no longer the woman standing behind a kitchen that reeked of grease. I looked at the woman in the mirror, and for the first time in so long, I saw someone worthy. I didn't expect my first client to be Nathaniel Pierce. And even more unexpected, the little girl Lucas had bullied was his niece. In that spacious office, the man once dreamed of by so many women was clumsily trying to tie a ponytail for a tiny girl. I let out a soft laugh, watching his fingers fumble with a pink elastic. The girl looked up at me, dimples showing. "Hi, miss. I'm Daisy Pierce. Are you here to see my uncle?" I nodded and bent down to whisper, "Is Lucas still bullying you?" Daisy shook her head, her eyes bright and clear, but Nathaniel overheard and looked up, voice calm. "Personal matters won't affect our professional collaboration." He didn't say that to deny, but to draw a clear boundary. We spent 3 hours discussing the project. I defended every point, explained every proposal, digging up knowledge I had buried long ago. Olivia had trained me well enough that Nathaniel's gaze gradually shifted, from cold to assessing, and finally to impressed. "You lack a few years of experience, but you're very sharp," he said, looking straight at me with no trace of flattery. "I like working with people who have a brain." It had been so long, way too long, since anyone had complimented me like that. If I were really that smart, would I have let myself drown in emotional quicksand for 6 whole years? I looked over at Daisy. She was coloring a picture of a family holding hands. But behind them were falling planes, fireworks exploding mid-air, and a forest of grave markers. The image drawn by a 6-year-old chilled me to the bone. When Daisy stepped out, Nathaniel noticed me staring at the drawing and finally explained. Daisy's parents died in a plane crash. By day, she was polite, sweet, but every night she screamed from nightmares. The dark rings under his eyes were clear, the mark of a man who stayed up night after night to watch over a child learning how to live again after her world collapsed. I blinked, remembering the nights Lucas had asthma attacks, remembering how I sat by his bed, comforting him in hopeless silence no one ever saw. I wanted to help this little girl. I knew a brilliant child therapist, so I offered to take Daisy to regular sessions. Nathaniel looked at me for a long moment. Then, for the first time, the corner of his lips curved into a small smile. "Thank you. And I think we might be able to collaborate more deeply." In that moment, I suddenly understood. Not everyone wealthy has a happy family. Not everyone strong is without pain. But one thing is for sure. People who have survived hurt recognize each other instantly. Over the weekend, I took Daisy out to fly kites after her therapy session. She had started learning how to cry when she was hurt, to cling to me when she was scared, no longer forced to pretend to be obedient, just to earn the affection of those around her. I wanted to help Daisy relearn how to smile with her whole heart, instead of that crooked smile used to hide her wounds. Losing parents is a darkness that never fully fades, but a 6-year-old child does not deserve to live in fear forever. On the green grass, I could hear the soft rustling beneath my shoes. Daisy ran barefoot, hair flying wildly in the wind, laughing breathlessly, sweat gleaming on her temples. I gently wiped her forehead and opened the fruit box I had prepared. "Grace, I really like you." One tiny sentence, and my nose stung with emotion. Right then, a familiar voice sounded behind me. "Grace, you're here too?" Benjamin. And beside him, Lucas and Natalie. I froze. My smile disappeared instantly. Benjamin claimed he didn't want a divorce, said he still loved me. But Natalie's Facebook was filled with photos of them traveling, dining out, watching musicals. He said I was just being petty, that he was letting me stay away for a while so I could grow up. Natalie even sent me messages straight to provoke me. "Let's see who Benjamin chooses in the end." I sent screenshots to Benjamin. He forced a laugh. "Natalie's just childish, she's joking." You're too sensitive, I didn't understand. She's the same age as me, yet he called her a child. If he wanted her, why cling to our marriage at all? Lucas saw me feeding Daisy fruit and immediately put his hands on his hips like a tiny tyrant. Daisy is a rejected kid. Why are you being nice to her? Mom, I order you to give me all the fruit. My son was becoming more and more like Natalie, rude, arrogant, and disgusted by everything that came from me. This is how you teach your son? I looked straight at Benjamin. Before he could say anything, Natalie shoved herself between us, her voice sharp and shrill. Grace, what kind of mother are you? I turned to her, meeting her eyes head on. What does that have to do with you? I'm still his legal wife. If you're going to steal, then steal all the way. I didn't expect that provocation to work so well. That night, my phone buzzed. A photo sent from Natalie's number. She was lying in my bed, next to Benjamin, her nightgown slipping off her shoulder, her expression full of triumph. I told you. Whatever you have, I will take. I would never understand why some people are so obsessed with stealing what belongs to others. But in that exact moment, I knew the image Natalie built in Benjamin's eyes had begun to rot from the inside. I forwarded the picture to him. He panicked. He was competing for a department head position. He couldn't afford a scandal. I told Benjamin if he didn't finalize the divorce, I would expose every ugly thing he had done. He went silent. And in that chaos, something even more vicious happened, harsher than any slap I'd ever taken. My mother called, sobbing uncontrollably. The day before at the kindergarten, I had planted a seed of doubt in her heart. Go get a DNA test. Today, the results arrived. Natalie was the out-of-wedlock daughter of my father and his close friend. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. I had suspected it since Natalie started college. I had told my mother, but she didn't want to lose my father. She chose to be deaf and blind, rather than face the collapse of her marriage. A family where everyone is lying to each other. And that was the real reason why I cut ties. Not because I was angry, but because I refused to keep living in a pit of deceit. I looked at Daisy, peacefully asleep, still smiling. I wondered, if fate had forced us to grow up lacking love, then at the very least, I wouldn't let the world steal all of a child's joy again. Being beside her, for the first time in a long time, I felt something unmistakable. I am slowly finding myself again. In front of the courthouse, Benjamin stood close beside me, repeating over and over. That night, I was drunk, he said for the third time, his voice slightly trembling. Natalie came on to me. I didn't do anything, I just kept my eyes on the heavy courtroom doors. The midday sun spilled down over the stone steps. Honey, I know you're still mad, Benjamin continued, like he was trying to pitch a deal to a reluctant client. Today is the divorce you asked for, but I'm not giving up on you. I heard every word clearly, but none of them reached me anymore. When the court read the final ruling, I was no longer someone's wife, no longer standing behind anyone. There was both a weightless relief and a sharp ache. The door that had once trapped me had finally opened. I walked out of that courtroom, alone, but finally myself. I poured all my time and energy into work. The results came faster than I ever expected. The projects I handled kept bringing in new deals. To move further, I agreed to transfer to another state. Nathaniel said simply, "Just stay at my place." Daisy would love it. And just like that, I began a new life. The house was far too big, and Nathaniel's silence mirrored who he was: orderly, cold, intensely disciplined. He worked for hours in a dark office. I learned more from him. He taught me how to invest, how to make money work for me, how not to bow to someone just because I loved them. One evening, as we reviewed a report together, he asked, "Do you regret giving up on yourself for so long?" I was quiet for a while, then said, "Now I know. Loving yourself is the starting point of every rescue mission." He nodded slightly, didn't praise, didn't comfort, but I knew he understood. In that big house, I was no longer a shadow behind anyone. I still missed Lucas. That ache would hit me like a sudden wind in the chest whenever I saw kids on the street. But he was the same boy who had learned to look down on me. I don't forgive when my heart's still bleeding. I'm not that generous. But I had Daisy. She laughed more. She dared to run, to get her dress dirty, to cry when she was sad. Love doesn't always come from the same blood. It just has to be real. I took Daisy to therapy every week. The trauma of abandonment slowly faded. The smile on her face was now as clear as morning sunlight. To thank me, Nathaniel decided to enter a long-term partnership with Olivia's firm. A massive bonus was wired directly into my account. Olivia called that very night. Grace isn't afraid of failure. She's finally back, I laughed. But this time, it wasn't the kind of laugh that tastes like tears. In that wide room, the light cast my shadow on the white wall. That woman was still me, but she was no longer the Grace who trembled while begging to be loved. I was becoming the version of myself I could finally look up to. As for my old family, fragments of gossip trickled to me through mutual acquaintances. My parents took Natalie to Benjamin's company and caused a scene, yelling that he had deceived their daughter, but wouldn't take responsibility. And then my father exploded with rage, shouting in the lobby, only to be caught on video, which spread all over social media. Every dirty secret about Natalie began surfacing again, from blaming me, to bullying classmates into depression, to rumors of fake diplomas while studying abroad. All of it crashed down like a violent tide, dragging her to the bottom, and when my mother, in the middle of a fight, pointed straight at my father, accusing him of betrayal, Natalie ran out crying, and a car couldn't brake in time. In what seemed like the only lucid moment left in a man who once called himself the head of the family, my father leapt in front of her. She survived, but he broke both his legs. My mother called me afterward, her voice disturbingly calm. Your father can't walk anymore, and Natalie, she's done too. My daughter, can you forgive me? I closed my eyes and saw my childhood shatter into glass pieces cutting into my hands. I couldn't, because sometimes people know the answer in their heart long before they ever say it, but they keep layering on false hope to lie to themselves. She told me how she'd suffered, raising her husband's mistress's child without knowing it, how decades of marriage turned into a cruel joke, how she had seen the truth overnight. But that kind of late awakening couldn't possibly mend the wounds she planted in me as a child. She sold the house and moved into a damp, stinking rental. My father lay bedridden, festering with sores, with nothing but groans of pain and the smell of antiseptic trapped between four moldy walls. Natalie, once praised as a princess, now cowered like a sewer rat in a shuttered apartment, too ashamed to step outside among all the curses hurled at her. My mother asked if I could visit her. I replied simply, things like disappointment or shame don't need to be explained. I won't look back, and don't expect me to forgive again. Benjamin, too. His career stalled, taking endless leave to care for Lucas and shuttle between home and hospital. Contracts stolen by competitors. Salary slashed miserably. They said I was cruel, but no one knew how long my path had been, or how many years it rained in my heart. And eventually, I had to choose. Either drown in the past, or learn to swim so I could keep living. Time passed, and I didn't feel pain anymore. Just peace. I stood by the lake, cold wind swirling dry leaves around my feet, and all the people I once loved or hated had finally drifted away from me. Then a tiny hand slipped into mine. Daisy's hand, warm as sunlight, soft as a reminder that life still holds gentle things. I looked down to see her smile, not forced, not fake, a real smile that had vanished through years of growing up in darkness. And in that moment, I understood that every wounded person carries their own story, the scars, the tears, the long nights. But fate, in its strange way, is still fair. It brings broken souls together so they can learn how to love and be loved again. I held Daisy's hand tighter, letting the wind carry away the ashes of old memories, and I walked forward, without looking back. Because I knew, freedom is when you're brave enough to walk away from what hurts and calm enough to choose a future that's finally worthy of you.